Welcome to Hybris Conversations. My name is Suresh Kochatar. They say legends are made, some say legends are born, some say legends are created. But there are some people who straddle all this. And today, I have one such personality with me. As he calls and is known as Lion Y. Kiran. He runs a conglomerate across different disciplines, from real estate to hospitality to charitable organizations to travel and even being in diplomacy. All of it straddled in just one person. We need to discover how does he manage so many things in a day of 24 hours. So let me bring Lion Y. Kiran into the discussion. Thank you for joining us at Hybris, sir. And one of my first most obvious questions to you would be, where did this all start? I believe you worked for a number of companies before you decided to take up and start this venture. So can you just take us through your journey from your early days to where you started your venture? Because from there we'll take it off separately.
Fine. I started my the journey, the professional journey, in fact, as an employee in DRDO. It was like, a 1 year, 3 months time. But fortunately, it was an amazing experience. When I joined there, one of my the favorite personality and whom I cannot miss out in any of my meetings or conversations, it's Abdul Kalam. He was the director at that point of time. So I worked for some time over there and I learned, a lot of things. It was just for 1 year, 2 months of time. But after that I joined, it was just 1 year, 2 months of training over there. Then I moved out. Then when I was pursuing my graduation, then I joined the United Breweries, UB. So it was again 1.5 year at the time. At that point of time, it's the Naxalites, they banned and the police people used to sell the liquor in police stations and all. So I joined and it was a very challenging that point of time. Nobody wanted to give the trucks to move the material, the cardons. So that's one second experience. So defense to the beverages. Then I started the pursuing for my civils. So civils, when I was preparing for my civils, I took Diksha, the Ayyappa Diksha. Then I moved from Warangal to Hyderabad. I stayed in a room in Tarnaka, close to Tarnaka. That point of time, they have seen small advertisement in the newspaper, sales officers required for one of the real estate company. Then I applied it. I went to Shabarimala. I returned back and I've seen that, there is a interview call letter. So I went there and joined. I started my journey in the real estate. That's how I started. Real profession started right from the day, the earlier, I don't call it as a serious profession, but real estate, yes, it is my first profession and, I continued from there in the same line. Same company, I continued for about 3 years in the same company. Then that broken into 2-3 parts. Then I started my journey with the same people who asked me to join them. I started Srimitra. Srimitra, I was there from sales officer to the vice president over there. So it was about 11 years my journey in Srimitra. Then from Srimitra, again 17 years, 16 years of my journey in Switcher India. So Srimitra was again, there was some couple of partners over there. So there was some gap between them and then I was forced to start as the Switcher India.
So obviously, you moved from Srimitra and you started your own venture. That must have been a high point in your life. But again, you would have started in a small way. I believe you had just about 30 employees at that point in time. Today you have about 7,000 associates. And you have a bouquet of properties across the Twin Cities. I saw some of the properties, I'd been there. But when you look at your growth that you achieved, this phenomenal growth that you achieved over these years, from an unorganized sector like real estate, you have brought in a lot of professionalism into this entire thing. How did you manage to do this?
I'll tell you, when I started the real estate, I started with a lot of hopes and, a lot of, the aspirations and all. So what happened when real estate industry is very interesting, no doubt about it. But when I entered into the market and when I met my first couple of customers, they said, "Are why you joined in real estate?" When I said, "What is wrong in it?" So, after 1 week or 15 days of time, I realized that there is a lot of negativity in the market. So the people are not able to digest that I am into real estate. The people, my close relatives, they used to tell me, "Arey, itna padke, why you wanted to in this?" So then I realized that it is a paradise of brokers, and it is completely unorganized. So it is going to give me, it is not going to give me any image if I continue. But I wanted to continue. Then I said, okay, let me take it up. I wanted to continue. Then I started in a very slow way. I picked up some of my friends and my, with the close associates. Then I said, okay, there is a scope in it. So when completely the market is going in one direction, let me take a chance. Let me try it out. So it's not try, but it's let me face the challenges, and let me create my own what do you call that, entity or my identity and all. Then I started going and explaining it to them. No, the entire industry is like this, but we are like this. We are different. We are different from the other people to this. It took little time, to make them understand how I am different and my company is different. But started slowly, the change I have seen in the public. A lot of people started coming and joining me in the marketing, and also the people started accepting me. Then I started, observing a lot of other insurance companies and banking sector and B2C companies, whatever the B2C companies are there. I started looking at them. I started learning from their lessons and all. Either it is a insurance sector or a Eurocofopes or the pharma company and all, how they used to maintain their DPRs, daily progress report, daily sales reports, how they used to communicate it to the clients and all. But there was a lot of gap between me and my company also, because company, they have a set of because I joined in a very lower level, so I cannot influence them. It's very difficult for us to say you follow my path. I have to follow the company's path. But there also I created my own the path, and I started creating a small newsletters to the my team and the clients and all. Then slowly I started developing a kind of the marketing brigades. So it is a great experience. When if I look at it back now, today entire world is changed and everything is available on net, and a lot of people are there to train and all. But that point of time, working from Warangal, and my area was like I completely captured initially the Telangana and moved to the Andhra also. I started spreading my marketing team. I proudly I can say I don't have much about other industries and all, but I can proudly say that I created the new trend in real estate. The people used to come in a blazer and with a tie, and the people used to come at 6 o'clock to learn the basic English in this line. Otherwise, the real estate morning, they used to come with about 30 to 40 ambassador cars. Everybody used to, the companies used to give everybody about $500 of rupees. They used to go into the market wearing all the gold rings and khadar shirts and sports shoes. That is a typical the kind of the real estate. But now if you look at it, real estate is a very professionally organized sector. But I sometimes I feel really happy about it, how we created, like in army, the defense sector. There is a Assam regiment, Sikh regiment. Yeah. That is how I created my own the segments in real estate marketing. I created the titles to each and every team. I created that competition. I created that professionalism. They used to sit and discuss about how we need to handle the clients and what are all the problems and issues. I used to go to each and every taluka headquarter and conduct seminars. Not a real estate. I never used to promote my product. Problems and prospects of Hyderabad, and how you need to invest, what you need to look at it when you are investing in Hyderabad market and all. So that is how I created an awareness in the market. So that it's starting is important. Once you started, the market will teach you, the society will teach you a lot of things, and it will evolve.
In fact, you are a pioneer in that respect, because pioneers always have this problem that when you start first, there is no benchmark to follow. You have to set your own benchmark. And a progression from real estate would be naturally into the hospitality sector, because you hold huge chunks of land and then you decide what to do with it. And hospitality gives you that value addition. From being a plain vanilla, it gives you top ups and then you add on to it and become a hospitality sector. So you went into hospitality, and you had some partners before that, and you were running something else, and then you started your own couple of resorts. Can you take us through that part of the journey?
See, when we used to, the launch projects after project, it was successful, and every 6 months we used to launch a new project and all. But there was a lot of, dissatisfaction in me. I mean, what is that we are doing? Okay, taking a piece of land and making it as some couple of, the plots, and we are selling it. But we need to add some lifestyle. When you look at, the European community and American and Australian communities, they have a lot of lifestyle involved in the real estate. When it is not just selling some piece of the lands, 200 square yards, 400 square yards, selling it on installment and all. But, the people, when the people are going to come, why the people will come and stay over there. So we need to add some beauty to that. I mean, add, the value to that particular, the piece of land. So then we started conceiving, creating some, the value addition to land. Then I started with, creating Mount Vegas was a project at that point of time, and I created Mount Opera. Mount Opera, it's my brainchild, and I went and saw a lot of the projects.
I think it's one of the first in that sector,
yes,
actually, in Hyderabad.
Exactly, Hyderabad. It was the first, and people, who will go that far and all. I said, people should enjoy drive. It should not be within the city. It is going to become a hotel. If it is a resort, you should enjoy driving of about 1 hour and going there, chilling it out, relax yourself, come back. So that is exactly the purpose of the resort. So then it was a big hit. Then it also created a lot of problem within the group. They're not able to manage the success of it and the fame of it. Then it broke it. So then when I started Switcher India, then real estate, along with the real estate, every project we used to create, I started creating a little space of the clubs and clubs. Then later on, I converted those clubs into the resorts again, and still up and running. My Papyrus Port Egyptian theme resort, and Honeyberg and Karimnagar Road. It's the beautiful contemporary resort. Both won a lot of international awards and all. And we are also coming out with the Madagascar deck. It's a very beautiful hillock place on Vijayawada Highway. That's also coming up now. And that's how we started, the hospitality sector also into the group.
Because I'm a person from the hospitality sector. I'm a hotel management graduate myself. I've been to both your resorts, which you talked about, the Papyrus as well as the Honeyberg. Now, to start a resort is easy, but to keep that momentum going, because it's a people's business at the end of the day. The guest is God, and every guest has to be satisfied. They take back the feedback. So there again, just like you did in real estate, did you set out by kind of motivating your staff? Did you set out by training your staff? Because these are very important part in the hospitality industry. It is totally different. It's a people business, as I said before. So how did you manage that?
See, I'll tell you one thing. Before that, I wanted to tell you what is my lifestyle. I enjoy traveling.
So how did you? You travel a lot, isn't it? You must have traveled to, I think, 100 plus countries. 100.
Yeah, 97 countries I would have completed with this pandemic situation.
So it's close to a century now. So each of the
century.
places you go, you travel, you see certain properties, you see certain way people deal with business. Those examples, did you bring them back to Hyderabad?
That's really influenced me. I learned a lot of things over there. I said, why not we? Hyderabad is also the place where everything is available in Hyderabad. The people are very hospitality in nature, and the people are it's a lot of IT sector influence is there. So obviously, if not today, tomorrow the people will definitely bend towards that, and there is a huge gap, and we are not able to give anything. That point of time when Ramoji Film City used to give only, there was no much activity. It's a visual treat is one thing, and physical and mental treat is another thing. So it's people when go to any hospitality project, they wanted to get involved into that activities. Then you'll relax. If you stress yourself, then you'll then you'll get relaxed. So that really helped me out. Even in conceiving my real estate projects or my hospitality projects, my traveling really helped me a lot. Wherever I traveled, almost 80-90% of my travel. I traveled as a backpacker. Without anything, and it's just a simple bag with 2 or 3 t-shirts.
So there's no luxury as such.
No luxury at all. And it is not just to seeing the the city, I mean, North City, South City and all. I used to, see the city, okay, one day. But most of the time, even again, if I'm staying there for 4 days, one day only in city, 3 days, I used to go and explore the culture of the country. I mean,
the food, the cuisine.
Yeah, the cuisine and the lifestyle and their, what not, clothing and everything, their culture, basically the culture of that country. So that really, motivated me, and the Timberleaf, my Spanish villas, the Spanish villas at
The
Shamshabad.
influences come from there.
Yeah. So that's that's one. And another is the Egyptian Thin Ribs at Papras Port. I mean, if you look at it, I invited Egyptian ambassador over there for the inauguration. They said, wow, I mean, even I'm not able to see this kind of stuff in my country. The pyramids, I'm walking like, an ancient Egyptian
Yeah,
street.
I remember that. I've been there actually. So that is sort of creating a benchmark for yourself, because you are a person who believes that there are benchmarks to be set for everything. Because if you go by standard philosophy, you don't believe in standard stuff. So there comes your passion for automobiles, your passion for books. So when you look at automobiles as such, it's an extension of your fashionista statement, isn't it? Your travel must have taken you to the best of the brands worldwide. You have the taste for it. I mean, it's one thing to have the money, it's a different thing to have the taste for it. So what motivates you to really look at the fashion brands as such? Is it that an extension of the hospitality sector?
Obviously, see, when you travel, you'll understand, what is that innovation. I mean, it is not just spending money and buying that stuff. I mean, each brand, they worked a lot. I mean, they work a lot in creating that particular item. For example, it may be a blazer, or it may be a watch, or it may be, the cosmetics or your perfume or whatever, I mean, your shoe or whatever. So a lot of research it goes on. The material what they choose, and the design, element and all.
It's handcrafted.
It's handcrafted. A lot of the luxury brands are handmade. So, I mean, if you look at, the watch, Rolex watch, it's mostly, most of the Rolex watches are handmade. It is not machine made, exactly. So this it gives, a lot of pride. I mean, it's like it's not just money, you have money and going and buying it and all. When you're carrying it, top to bottom, how you carry yourself. It's not that, I only have a passion for the foreign stuff, but also I enjoy even it is an Indian or foreign. I mean, we are a good global
We have
citizens.
the handlooms here, which is the
Handlooms
best
and
as
all,
well as
so the linen and all. So that's how I enjoy. I mean, see, either it is the Gucci, or it's an Armani, or mobiles like Virtu, and I wanted to have the best of best, and out of that again the signature. I mean, limited edition. So I go by some, the limited edition stuff. I mean, it is a Mont Blanc, again in a limited edition. Whereas I have, that passion for only, the few are there. Exclusivity.
In fact, that is something that we should look forward in the next session that we're going to have with Lion Kiran, because he talked us through the route that he achieved by way of real estate, and then he took us to the hospitality sector, a bit of the travel. I'm going to delve more into that. And of course, he spoke a little about fashion. But in the second half of this interview, we will look at something more detailed about his philosophy in life, his eclectic way of living, his way of writing, and of course, his passion for automobiles and charity, the most important thing. Ladies and gentlemen, wait for the second session to come up. Until then, we take a break. Welcome to HiBiz News.
Hello, welcome to HiBiz News.
Hello and welcome to HiBiz TV.
Hello and welcome to HiBiz News.
In the first half of conversations, we saw Lion Kiran talk about his start of his life, the way he started real estate, the way he brought professionalism into it, how he moved into hospitality. There again, he tried to be different from the run-of-the-mill crowd, a pioneer at that. We brought a bit into his travel, what he achieves through travel, and of course, his look at how fashion adds a value statement. In the second half of the interview, let me quiz him more on the details about his educational goal. You had a doctorate from the US, you did your MBA, and you had a couple of diplomas, including one on public relations. So my question is, in between all these things, where do you find time to do all this?
See, time. Very interesting. I mean, actually, if you have a passion, you'll be able to accommodate everything in your life. One important thing is you have only one life to live in. Only.
So live it fully.
So one life, how to get maximum out of it is very important. I mean, it's not that if normally the people, they created a standard template and they wanted to fix it everything within that. But what I look at it is you need to explore. You should not leave anything the left or
so you should have no regrets at the end of your life.
At the end of the life. So I continued. I mean, say for example, when I'm doing this, whenever I'm getting the time, for example, my education, while working, I started working out on my executive MBA, and I went to St. Petersburg and I wrote that examination, international business, and I came back. I mean, I got about 87 credits. Normally they call it as a credits. Out of 10, it's about 8 credits I got it out of 10 credits. So that's I say, whatever I do, I it's not just for the sake of the people. I wanted to enjoy it. Either it is the education or a travel or my clothing or whatever. I first of all, it should give me a kick instead of giving before giving it kick.
So what's your philosophy in life? Because quite often I heard this anecdote from the Israeli commando force. When they recruit somebody for the Israeli commando force, I believe there's only one condition they set out to get the lady or the gentleman into the force. It is that you should have failed once in your life. I'm sure there are moments when you actually stumbled and fell, but then you picked up and ran. I mean, can you detail us something on that? Because this must be something that must be hidden from the public eye. Because everybody has failures in life, but how you succeed after failing is the most important thing.
See, it's like life is always like a W curve. Until and unless you fall, there is no meaning for the you are climbing up. So if somebody says I never seen the failures and all, that means he is he is not a right the professional or the right person. So you need to have until and unless a challenge is in front of you, I call it as a challenge. If it is a challenge in front of you, then it will bring out your inherent talent or inner energy. See, it is life is always, I feel it is a roller coaster. If you whenever you go on to the roller coaster, you will enjoy. You laugh, you cry, and you do everything. That's a very important. When you go down and definitely that you are going to come up. If you feel that it is only going to go down and you are not going to come up, then there is no meaning in it. See, when you fall, then you will realize the value of falling, and you will realize the value of the the climbing up. That's how I experienced in my last 2 decades plus in a real estate sector. So it might be about more than 20-25 times I experienced falling down and raising up. When you fall, if it's people are like you don't look at the people. Don't take the people into your mind and travel. Once you are conscious or cautious about it, then you are gone. What people are going to think about it, that's your the end. So please, I tell everybody, please don't keep that in your mind. It is you feel isolated. You feel like, okay, koi nahi dekha mere ko. I've fallen down. I wanted to get it up. You get up. Then you'll feel like, oh. Then,
it's like a small child, basically. When they start walking, they fall, they look around, they don't see the mom or dad, then they start walking. Otherwise, they start crying.
Exactly.
So that's a wonderful philosophy you have, Mr. Kiran. I want to bring you in that because quite often today's youngsters, when they're starting out in business, they need role models. They look at a JRD Tata or they look at Dhirubhai Ambani and then say, I want to be like him. But out of the 1,000 people who think like that, only one makes it to that level actually. Today, when you look at a philosophy of business as such, because you're talking more of the philosophy right now, and I'm just not talking about your real estate or your tourism sector or even your philanthropy for that matter, but there must be certain values that you harbor in you and say that I will not compromise on these things, but I will keep doing what I think is correct. What is that? What is that kind of principle?
Basically, the people, when 4 people are sitting and when discussing about me, the first statement they make is, this fellow is an adamant. He will never listen to anyone, and he go by his own this thing. But But I said, that's the style. I mean, whether it is right or wrong, if you are calm and cool, people will come and say, "Arey, he's a nice gentleman, very calm guy." And if you are vibrant, they'll say, "Arey, he's a very vibrant man." So it is a perspective of the people. So what I feel is, what I look at it when I look at myself, I wanted to go by my heart and my mind. I don't want to get influenced by what people they think about it, because if I go on changing it, for example, if I'm with some XYZ, I wanted to go with them with their philosophy, then next day I meet some more people, and they will also drag me to their own style. Then I'm going to lose my track. So see, it is basically when I decide something, I wanted to stick on to that, and I wanted to, it is like an SOP. I mean, if it is a policy, companies normally they follow the policy. Like it is, you need to have your own policy of your life. So whether it is right or wrong, you decide it in first. Once you have drawn the line, you follow that. There is no question of again looking back at all. As you rightly said, out of 1 lakh, not 1,000, out of 1 lakh, the people will become either it is a Jardi Tata or some XYZ, Bill Gates or something like that. But the timings, what they need to look at it is the timings are different. When Jardi Tata started, what was the situation that point of time, and how he struggled, how he dedicated his this thing, how he created his own path, and how he developed his own personality to achieve particular, the things and all. I mean, we, after reaching a stage, we are not going to talk about how many millions and how many trillion the worth he is. What is it, the difference he has made in the society? It's a personality that is going to come out. When you talk about personality is, your attitude, and you are dealing with the people and all these things will come into the front, and the rest all will go back.
It's a belief system, basically. That's what comes at the end of it. And Miskin, I remember seeing a lot of your charity work. I mean, I worked in a big media house earlier, so I used to constantly see these reports coming out. Making money is one thing, which everybody does today. I mean, that's a rat race that we all live in. But at the end of the day, there is something called giving back to the society. I mean, there is a lot of satisfaction that comes in it. I also worked in the corporate social responsibility for almost 5 years. So there is a sense of giving back to the society. Big businessmen do it. People like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, everybody does this kind of giving back to the society. Now you had this philosophy, and I saw you dealing more with children specifically. I think that's the target audience that you picked on. Any reason why you got into philanthropy, one, and why children?
A lot of the things, it's not that, after earning money or after me becoming a entrepreneur and all, I started this. I started from my childhood. When I was in my school, my college days, I used to pick up, I used to take all my friends and go to hospital, and we used to give the blood donation after 21 years. And before that, when we were in school, we used to collect 5 rupees, 10 rupees, and all our friends. Okay, and today my birthday, the other people used to give me the 5 rupees, 10 rupees. So we all used to go and clean up our, the blackboards, and do some saplings over there. Put up his saplings over there, and do the whitewash of compound walls.
So it started pretty early.
Pretty early. It's in my early school days. That's how I started cultivating. After that, then blood donation camps, and after that, whatever the people, my friends were there in the streets, we used to clean the streets on that particular day, and we used to go to an old the gentleman in that area, and spend some time with him and give a gift to him. It is not just supporting him, and it's a gift, or it is a new dress.
Quite
to
often
him,
they are neglected. They are not even nobody there to take care of them.
Yes. So that's how it started in me. And when I started earning little money, and when I can spend little, the time and money, then I got into this, and we started Switch India Foundation. And through Switch India Foundation, I initiated. We started the Kalam. Again, Kalam is an inspiration for me. Kalam used to, whether he is a DRDO chief or president of India, wherever he goes, it's Hyderabad or Indore or wherever, he used to visit one school and interact with the children. He says, if this 5 lakh students, 500,000 students, if I take care of them, they'll take care of my country, because they are going to be the future. After crossing 20, 25 or 30, I'll not be able to change them, because it's already mind is set. Their attitude and their style is set. I mean, it's very difficult to influence them, catch them young. I mean, like, you know, if you train them, if you tune them, I mean, if you inject that ideology into their minds, they'll take care of my country. I mean, I wanted to see that India is going to grow, and if India wanted to, you know, become a superpower, I mean, it's only possible through the children. So that's how, and we started special children homes and started conducting talent search examination. Every year about 1 lakh students, they write that examination. And I named it as a Sir C.V. Raman Young Genius Awards, so the first Nobleant. And still I'm continuing that, they're conducting the examination and honoring them. And also adopted 3 villages and special children homes, like visually challenged, mentally challenged children and all. Every year, 28th November, Sankalp Divas, we conduct it, and every year, one Magsaysay awardee is going to be the chief guest for that. I mean, it's not chief guest, they'll come and participate in our activities, like one Anna Hazare, Kiran Bedi, every year one, Sandeep Pandey, Jaki Narputam, Sundarlal Bahuguna, and all these guys, every year, one gentleman, they come and they spend the whole day with us, and that's how, you know, there
must be a special kick you get out of this, isn't it? I mean, dealing with this kind of, because end of the day, for all the marketing, the sales and the staff, there is a sense of satisfaction that comes in dealing with children, especially, as you rightly said, the mentally challenged children, the physically challenged children, and even the old people for that matter. But Mr. Kiran, there's also this another part of your, which not many people know about, which is your talent for writing. I know you have done a PhD, you have MBA, and you have all that, but where did you develop this talent for writing?
Writing right from my school days. I used to write, you know, the poetry and small articles to the magazines. Like there is a magazine, you know, the weekly magazines. I used to write. There is a youth column in Andhra Bhumi and Pallaki and all these magazines, you know. So I used to write. I used to collect all the my friends' photographs, and I used to write on their behalf also. I mean, I used to send it across to the magazines. So I, you know, that's how I developed that the culture from my school days. So now slowly, when I entered into my particular field and when I started developing my you know, the what do you call that, the academics in my own industry and all, then I started writing about, you know, the innovations and experiments in real estate and all. I submitted almost 90 papers across the different, you know, the congresses on real estate, and I penned 3 books on real estate. One is Blueprint Blow Up, another is Feet and Yards, and third one, recent one is, you know, Arthashastra.
So obviously you have to do a lot of research when you do this.
On it,
again, I shouldn't be asking you where do you find time, because in between your 24-hour day, I think 36 hours also won't be enough for you to do all this. Mr. Kiran, when you finally look back at your life, of course, we talked about philosophy, we talked about philanthropy, we talked about education, we talked about your business, we talked about your love for automobiles, fashion. But when you look back and when you say you're gone from here, all of us have this dream saying that I want to be remembered like this, like Dr. Kalam is rightfully remembered for what he stood for. When you say, when I am gone, people should remember me for this, what is that entire sequence of things or entire gamut of things that people should believe you and remember you for?
See, about 20 years back, in one of the marketing meeting, somebody, you know, one of the speaker, he threw a question on us. So, what is that, you know, the best you wanted to have? What is that you wanted? As a marketing person, everybody will dream for bigger dreams and all. Each one of them, they went and started talking about it, and they said, I wanted to become like this. I wanted to have a bungalow in Banjara Hills. I wanted to drive the best of best car, etc. and all, you know. But I don't know how it, you know, come into my mind. I said, I wanted to become the cover page and the material in any business magazine, number one. It was nothing. I mean, nobody knows. I mean, my neighbor, they don't know what I'm doing that point of time. And number 2 is, you know, if permits, you know, end of my life, I wanted to earn Bharat Ratna. Exactly.
That's a good dream.
I mean, you know, because Bharat Ratna, it is they are not going to give just for your business or something like that. Because if that is the case, then J.R.D. Tata and
That's why it's
lot of
called
people,
Bharat Ratna.
yeah, a lot of people will be there in front. I mean, you need to have that kind of the stuff you need to contribute it to the nation, and then the people should be able to recommend you, either when you alive or after your life. The people should recommend you for that. I mean, that's number 2. And number 3 is, even after 100 years, like other the great leaders, not my family, the people should remember. The general crowd, I mean, whoever not related to my family or my caste or my area, in general, in society, the people used to pick up. Once upon a time, one guy used to be there and he did like this. Then they said, no, what is it? Then started laughing about it in Bharat Ratna and all. Then I said, so nothing wrong in it, right? I mean, my life object is that let me travel towards that. Whether I'm going to achieve it or not. I mean, if all my ideology and my strengths and my energies, if I put it towards that, if God, the blessings are also there, I may achieve it. Then after that, started, appearing on many the magazines, and the people started, even unknowing people also started talking about it and all. When I started this, the concept called, giving back to the society, as you rightly said, it is not just developing a roads or infrastructure and all. Now I have taken a concept called, the village development. The India lives in villages. That's what we call it. So the village. So the villages, I started working it out, and after my third adoption of a village, I wanted to create, even after 1,000 years, people should remember that particular village. So what is that? I mean, why even about, the village which I adopted, recent village, is Narmeta. 3,000 years back, there was a life.
Oh, it's a civilization.
Long Stone Age. So we found some, the Stone Age, I mean, the archaeology department also did some excavations over there. And then I said, okay, now after 3,000 years, we are remembering that village. Why don't we do something, so that after 1,000 years or 1,500 years, the people, I wanted to bring in a beautiful, very long stone over there. And I wanted to, bring a Shilpi and carve it and print it. What is our Indian current culture? Let it be on that. Let, all the
1,000 years later, people will remember.
People will remember that. So, see, all depends on how you visualize. I mean, how you conceive. I mean, idea, and whether it is going to live for 30 years, 50 years, 100 years. I mean, what is the strength of that particular idea? That is very important. And even for everyone, I mean, even the college, the startups also, I'll tell them, please don't, don't want to, go run after, don't run after your valuation game. Just pick up karo, kal valuation, then quit it. No. It is something like, you emotionally connect with some concept. Then after that, then the money will come. Just don't be after money. Be after some emotional connect.
In fact, that's exactly what I wanted to end this conversation with, because a lot of youngsters today don't really look up for jobs. There were time when, even now, there is a demand for government jobs or, white collar jobs. But as Prime Minister Modi rightly says, the Atmanirbhar Bharat depends on the fact that how much of self-employment you create. You need to become an entrepreneur like you did. I mean, you didn't have a kind of a legacy to fall back. You're not born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You worked your way hard. Yeah, up the ladder, you worked hard, and then you came up to where you are today. So when you talk to youngsters today, when you want to give a message to youngsters, so the camera is right there in front of you, you can tell the youngsters of today, what is it that they need to do to become successful? Successful doesn't mean, as you rightly said, making money or valuations or whatever. Successful is, are you happy in life? Are you happy with what you're doing? That's most important. So what is your message for that?
It's a right time, right question, what I feel. Now in the last 3-4 years, especially, everybody wanted to become something in their life, and most of them, they're not looking at the jobs, and they wanted to do something. I mean, a lot of startups. I mean, every second home, third home, we are seeing that startups and all. It's a very interesting thing what is happening in India. I mean, exactly what was happened in Europe and US about 10 years, 15 years back. That is how they started pulling these youngsters into US market and European market, and they start migrating from India to abroad and started working as a for white collar jobs or the skilled as a skilled labor or whatever you call it. But what I wanted to suggest everyone is create your, the complete the life sketch. I call it as a blueprint of your life. You need to have a blueprint, how you want it to be in 25, in 28, 30, 35. Just mergers and acquisitions. You just don't go by the system of, okay, today I have done this, serial 2 investor, CL3 investor, exit, earn money, and just, the get out of a particular concept and all. But you stick on to that. I mean, you become the master of your particular line, whatever the line you take it up. I mean, it is not just a technology. Technology is not just related to one. I mean, the technology is related to real estate or pharma. Technology is everywhere in the world. So then don't get disappointed when things are not happening, and don't try for that pizza burger life. I mean, just the fast food. No, I mean, you prepare your dish, you enjoy it, and become the master. This is my signature dish kind of stuff. Create your own mark in your life, and then you try to become a celebrity. I mean, celebrate your life and become a celebrity. That's a very, very important in life. And India looks at you, and India needs a lot of balanced and intellectual the youth to lead this particular country. Don't have the passion of the Westernism, etc. We have a long culture, excellent culture. Also promote the India and Indian culture along with your when you are promoting yourself, promote also, yes, we are Indians and we do like this, and this is our culture. Definitely, this is going to give you the beautiful life. Now the people are remembered only for our generation and next 1 or 2 generations, but the legacy should continue. I mean, otherwise it's a micro level and a macro level to micro level to it's a single it's a families are getting disturbed, and we need to take this entire culture and we need to go. I mean, that's what I suggest. You create a beautiful the picture of yours for the next 20 years or 30 years, and stick on to that. Don't get jumped from one line to other line. That's what I wanted to tell.
That's wonderful, Mr. Kiran. I think that kind of motivating message for youngsters today. I think you should speak more at colleges and startups venues. But I think at the end of the day, when you look at your life and you talked about the entire gamut of how you started to where you are today, your philosophy of various things that you do, I think there is one lesson for every youngster who is watching this particular interview, that you need not have a rich grandfather to start your business. You need not have a silver spoon in your mouth to start a business. You will fail, you will fall, but it's how you pick up and run from there. You will have your moments of despair and you will have your moments of success. How you take each one is how mature you become in life. Because as they say, there are no shortcuts in business. You are here for the long run. And to succeed in that long run, people like Lion Kiran are a big motivating factor. Thank you very much, Mr. Kiran, for speaking to us at HiBiz Conversation. It was wonderful having you, and the last half an hour, I think, just flew past us. And on another day, we will definitely have a longer conversation, sitting at a more place which is more informal in one of your resorts, and talk about your life and your philosophy and other things. Definitely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suresh, and thank you, HiBiz. It's a, always whenever this kind of conversations are there, and it really, gives a new idea. Even for me also, it's a great, it's a great experience.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Lion Kiran speaking to us about his philosophies in life, how he started his business, and how he started in a small way and grew to where he is today. He definitely had his moments of despair, but he did not give up. He grew, and he has grown from strength. And of course, there are many facets in his life today that he would look back and proudly say, I did it. That's more important for any youngster today who is looking to become big in life. Thank you for watching HiBiz Conversations. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. For more news updates, please do watch HiBiz News.